Two coolest guys in football.
Yeah, that's us. Well, I'm watching Marshall Manning.
Yeah.
Have you heard about him, Peyton's son?
Yeah.
It's a rumor that Nick Saban offered him already. He's 11. This can't be true.
Really? Did
It
that
can't
just
be
come
true.
out?
Yeah, I just retweeted it, or I quote tweeted it. I'm watching him throw. I mean, he's an 11-year-old kid throwing the football around. Like, how old's your kid?
My kid's 7.
So, picture 4 years him throwing the football around. This is exactly what you'd expect. He can't have been offered. I think somebody's just joking.
Well, it says he shows off his. I guess he threw at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, he threw to Justin Jefferson and stuff like that, and we kind of went viral. He's throwing to Marcus Pollard with Ray Lewis covering him and stuff like this, and it's fun, it's cute.
I'm watching it.
But there's nothing, you can't offer that. I'm sorry, I don't care.
He's an 11-year-old kid. I saw the ball. I mean,
He's throwing a ball like an 11-year-old kid. There's nothing special about what he's doing there. I mean, 11 is what? 11 is what? Sixth grade? Fifth?
Sixth.
Sixth grade. Okay. So
could be fifth, probably sixth.
So he's tossing the ball around like an 11-year-old kid, sixth grader would. Now, listen, David Sills got offered in seventh grade.
But he had hit puberty, in all fairness.
Chris Leak got offered in seventh grade. Tate Martell got offered in seventh grade. But they threw the ball better than this. Not that I'm hating on the kid. I'm just saying, like, somebody saying Nick Saban offered him, I think is a joke. It's got to be. But yeah, he's going viral. So this is the next Manning kid I'm going to hate on. And I don't think I'm going to hate on him. I think he's going to be better.
He will be.
Arch is fine, But again, if he goes to that same 2A school in Louisiana and doesn't play any competition, I will really struggle saying that he's the number one player in the country like I did with Arch, because the level of competition there is so bad. I mean, compare it to the lowest tier you can think of in New Jersey, and that's the level that he's playing at now. So
really,
I mean, he's at college now. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, they played one team his sophomore year. They played a team that dressed 18 people total, 18. Not on offense, not on defense. Total 18. And he put up 500 yards and like 6 touchdowns against that team. But that's like 18 players that stink in a game, So I don't know what the worst level of competition is in New Jersey. I've always gravitated towards the highest, but that's what he's
there's
playing.
Incredibly low competition, because I've unfortunately I've coached at some of these schools at different points. And I built one of them up into a powerhouse that was probably at the lowest level. And I can tell you this, the level of the lowest level is low. Meaning every once in a while they can have a good kid, but as a team, the linemen are 180 pounds,
right,
at the lowest level.
Well, that's him. He's bigger. Arch is bigger than all of his linemen, I believe.
So that's like Group 1 football in New Jersey. Well, Group 1, not the top Group 1s, because there are some teams but the ones that are just trying to exist. You know what I mean? That's what it's like. 25 kids on a team. Year to year, you don't know. Like every once in a while they have a good year, but most years are bad. One Division I player in the history of the school type of thing,
Yeah, and again, this school has produced the Mannings, and It's produced Odell Beckham, so people think it's good competition, but it's just not. It's a good school. It's a really good school, but they play just garbage. So when they step up in the playoff, they get creamed every time, and Arch looks like crap. He looked like crap this year in the playoff. He looked like crap a year ago in the playoff. He just stinks. So he's got to do a lot of competition step up to go to Texas and be the number one recruit in the country and all this stuff. But yeah, Marshall's trending now, but again, there's no way.
Cool name.
Yeah, it is a cool name. And there's no way, Saban offered him. He's going to get every offer under the planet, on the planet. And, maybe he'll go to Tennessee and follow his dad, or, maybe he'll go someplace else. But he's, I could see at 11, I know because of the name, he's going to be a Power 5, high-level 5-star recruit. But there's nothing about him throwing at the Pro Bowl that tells me he's going to be good other than the last name. And having seen some of these prodigy kids, the Chris Leaks and the, Martells and the Sills. Sills ended up being a wide receiver,
He ended
which
up
is
being
amazing.
fantastic wide
I
receiver.
think he's in the NFL.
Yeah, he
still.
is fantastic.
Chris Leak turned out to be,
He
kind of
won.
a bust. He won a national championship, but there was so much hype around that kid, and he had committed to Wake Forest early and then flipped to Florida in the end. And he had a cup of coffee in the NFL. And then Martell was a complete total bust. But he committed to Washington in 8th grade, and he had that offer in 7th grade. So, it's not unprecedented to see these kids get these offers.
You know whose kid's very good? Who I saw? Matt Leinert's son.
Is he a lefty like Matt?
I watched people's. I honestly didn't pay that close of attention. I just know he's got a good amount of offers, and he's young. He plays at some school in California. This is Matt Leinert's kid, not from his wife.
He's a righty.
Yeah, it's not from his wife.
Wait. Okay.
It's from the girlfriend in college. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember. He had a child with a girl basketball player at you. I want to say the wife. It's not a wife. It wasn't his wife. It was like his girlfriend, and I think that she was a girls basketball player at USC. So it was like a genetic, college. The athletes get together type of thing.
Yep.
And they ended up having a child, but the kid is a very, very good. I think
his name is Cole Leinert. I don't see any film on him yet, but he's got like UNLV. He's a 2026, goes to Modern Day.
Yeah. He started this year, I think. I think he started this year.
So yeah, he's got UNLV. Yeah. Well, I'm wanting to see him throw because there's another Leinert that's out there, and I think it's the same kid because there was film of him as 11 and 9-year-old or whatever.
Oh, really?
And I think he's a righty, which is interesting because his dad's a lefty. I hate lefty quarterbacks. I just don't think they ever pan out. And, the spin of the ball is weird.
It spins over to the left. It's weird.
And it's hard to build your offensive line around it because your right tackle's your left tackle and all that. Oh, so Cole is a right-handed. Good. Okay. All right, good. Again, left-handers can pan out very rarely. Obviously, Steve Young and guys like that. But when I see a lefty quarterback, instantly I think he's not going to have an NFL future. It's probably wrong, but name the other lefty quarterbacks that have come up recently that have been any good.
No. I mean, Tua.
Vic was good, but he was an athlete.
Tua was playing good, but the issue for Tua is there's no way. I don't even know if he's going to be able to play again. Physically, he's not a big guy. So, that's one of the things that when I saw this about Bryce Young, and obviously he's going to go, 1 or 2, I guess. So when I saw this about Bryce Young, I thought it was interesting. They brought up Tua, that it's not about whether he'll be able to make the throws, his arm, whether I don't know whether his arm is unbelievable or not, but the whole thing about him will be when he gets hit by, I don't know, what's the guy who plays for the Browns, the defensive end?
Oh, Myles Garrett, who just dislocated his toe at the stupid Pro Bowl games, by the way, which nobody should ever do.
Never. I would never. If I was an agent, I would be like, no, just go to Hawaii. Say you're going to. Now it's in Vegas, which sucks. If I was a player, I'd be like, what? Why is this not in Hawaii?
They moved it to Orlando for a couple of years, and it was awful too. It's just there's no point going there. But yeah, Myles Garrett hits Tua, he's crushed.
All right, so if he hits Bryce Young,
but Tua's not big. Tua's 6 foot. He's stockier, he's thicker.
He's thicker.
Kyler Murray's 5'10", stockier, thicker. Bryce Young is about 180 pounds, and that's the problem. He's 5'11". I don't care, though. There's some guys that have a way of absorbing hits, avoiding hits. The kid's been undersized his entire life.
Yeah, the pros are different, though.
I know, but it's never been a problem. I'm telling you, there's certain guys like Tom Brady. Tom Brady was injured once in his career, missed a whole season. Tom Brady's immobile. He's big, but he's not big. He's 6'4", but he's not super strong. He's not like Bledsoe was or like Roethlisberger or those big quarterback. Guy never got hurt. And there's a feeling you have and a way you have of taking a hit, absorbing a hit, flopping, going dead, whatever. Just some guys have that knack, and I'm telling you, Bryce Young has that knack. I don't think he's going to be an injury-prone individual in the NFL.
The first time he gets hit by those guys, it's a different. Derrick Henry said this in an interview. It was they're like, and obviously he's a gigantic, and they said, what's the is there a difference between the NFL and college? Because obviously, he dominated in high school, college, everything he's at, right? And he said night and day. He said SEC was the closest to it, no doubt. It was. I think I'm with an interview with Taylor Lewin, that little show, what's called Bros.
Bussing with the bros.
Yeah, but Derrick Henry said that the hits and the physicality, it's like night and day from even the SEC. So that's my thing, is that
I get it.
I don't think the talent. It's not a talent issue. It's a will you hold up issue.
You know the name Rashawn Gary, right?
Of course. He's one of our original NUC discoveries in 8th grade.
Rashawn Gary, in high school, was an interior guy who could play on the outside. We ranked him as a 5-star. He's the number 1 player in the country. He could play end. He could play tackle. He played sort of a hybrid role of that in college. He gets to the NFL. The dude measures in, let me just be accurate with this, 6'5", 277.
Okay.
He was 6'4", 289, listed out of high school. His 6'5", 277 in the pre-draft measurables. He's a stand-up linebacker. So I get your point. Like, that's your linebacker's 277, and he's going to have a running start to hit you, and he runs a 4.58. He's going to kill you. But I'm just saying, size bothered me with Baker. Size bothered me with Murray. Size bothered me with Tua. 2 of those guys have not been injury prone. Murray got hurt this year, the knee thing. Baker wasn't. He was banged up with the ribs and all that stuff. And Tua has obviously been injured with the concussions. Bryce Young doesn't bother me size-wise. And I don't like small quarterbacks. I'm old school. I want my quarterbacks to be 6'4", 230, strong, big arm guys. Like a Matt Ryan, who, isn't the thickest guy in the world, but he's 6'4", 230. And it's hard to, hurt a guy like that. He hasn't been injury prone at all. But, with Bryce Young, I make the exception. And then there's, Will Levis, who's 6'3", 235 pounds, jacked out of his mind, and he sucks. I would much rather take Bryce Young. I don't care about his size at all.
Well, I think as a whole, one of the things that's interesting is, and why Will Levis goes to the top, is because there aren't that many, and it's because of what's coming up in the high school ranks. There is a trend with the kind of smaller QB, the 6'1", 6 foot guy that weighs $190 coming out, $185. And there's a lot more of those guys that are getting Division I scholarships than they used to. So now when you get to the NFL, and they're almost thinking what I'm thinking is like, all right, this guy's great. Like, if everything goes well and he doesn't get hurt, absolutely 10, 15-year career, with a Bryce Young, right? But all of a sudden he gets hurt, and all of a sudden somehow, because obviously a lot of it's luck, right? Injury. Now there are people that have an ability to maneuver themselves better. I agree with you, Brady, some of these other guys. Ben Roethlisberger didn't maneuver himself away from injury. He was just enormous, so big that you hit him. And my favorite video of all time, and obviously Roethlisberger is quite a I'll put it mildly by saying he's a character, but because of all the things that have over the years. But my favorite video is the video when they're doing the avoid the rush thing. Have you ever seen that video? It's like gone viral many years ago. And so they're, to avoid the rush, the backup quarterbacks are, they're avoiding the rush. They're throwing like the shields at them, and they're moving to the side. And then Ben Roethlisberger goes. They throw the first shield at him. He smacks it out of the way. They throw the second shield at him. He kicks it. They throw the third shield at him. He smacks it out of the way. Then he throws the ball. And I just think it's so fun. What made it go viral was he didn't care that you came and rushed at him. He was 270 pounds or 60 pounds and with a cannon arm, which helped him last 20 years because he was so big. He was so hard to hurt.
Right.
I think Mahomes is one of the things about Mahomes is, you look at him, you see the commercials, which me and my son's favorite commercials are the State Farm Mahomes. Oh, Bryce Young's commercial when he tells, we love that one too, where the kid comes home and he says they're my parents now. That's one of our we love those commercials. But Patrick Mahomes is still 230 pounds, 225 pounds. So it's not like he's a small guy, So when he gets hit, he's able to still kind of stay in there, and he obviously has a really unique way of avoiding people as well. But that's my only thing is like pot luck comes. Myles Garrett comes off the edge unblocked, and somebody misses a block. You're just hoping he feels it because otherwise they're going to be peeling him off the ground.
Yeah, it is a lot of luck, because there's been smaller quarterbacks who haven't been injured. There's been big quarterbacks who have been injured. And it's just like Joe Burrow's got hurt his first year, and just the way they landed and twisted on his knee, just the way it goes. Did you see they're having off-season talks about eliminating hip drop tackles?
Hip drop tackle?
So a hip drop tackle is essentially, this is the term they're using. You grab onto a guy from behind, you drop your hips, and that's how Mahomes got his ankle hurt. That's how Tony Pollard got his.
They turn on.
That's how his leg got broken. They're gonna outlaw those.
Really?
Yeah, you're gonna have a penalty call. The defensive.
How are they gonna outlaw that?
They're gonna flag it. So this is what they're talking about. It's not official yet, but this is what they're talking about. And so essentially, if you're a defensive player, there's nothing left for you to do. You can't do anything,
Well, they introduced flag football into the Pro Bowl for a reason. They want to see what the fans think about it. That's why.
Yeah, and the fans freaking hate it, and the fans will hate anything that's they're starting to get. This generation of fans obviously is very interested in CTE and being smart about injuries and all this other stuff, and they don't remember. The guys going across the middle getting destroyed and concussions and, smelling salts and all the Lester Hayes with the forearm.
Yep.
And they look at the stats of a Troy Aikman whose stats stink. They're just horrible. And he's a Hall of Famer and they don't understand it, because crappy quarterbacks these days, like Tony Romo could put up numbers that make Aikman's stats look horrible. But they're used to the offensive thing. But I don't know if these new generations of fans will accept flag football. Maybe they will. But I know anybody my age, 10 years younger than me, 10 years younger than that, aren't going to watch it. I'm not watching. I don't care. If college goes to two-hand touch, if the NFL goes to two-hand touch, I'm getting out of the business. I'm not watching it anymore.
Absolutely. I'll go watch rugby.
I'll watch anything but, it's just football's a contact sport, and that's the way it needs to be.
100%. It's like, and I run flag football leagues. It's fun, but it's not football. It's just not like my kid runs wild in these games. He's very fast and and he's not playing tackle football yet. He gets in the open. I mean, it's a touchdown. I don't know any other way to put it. There's no, and especially when you're grabbing like a flag, like a guy grabbing a flag, that's not and tackle. Okay. You teach him, you run up, you run through the hip, you wrap, right? Flag, you actually almost have to stop to grab it as you get there. There are a lot of similarities outside of tackling. But the thing that's different is in defense, like you're almost teaching them to stop on contact instead of running, because in football you run through the contact. In in flag, you have to kind of stop to pull it. It's not exciting as far as watching adults play it. I remember this, and you'll resonate with this. So after getting done playing college football, at UConn, I was living in New York City. I was working for a tech company. I was like, I still want to do something. Still want to do something. So there was a flag football team in New York City, and I went and played in it. And I was a linebacker in college. And they're like, well, we need guys to cover. I'm like, I'll just play safety. It was a joke. I would I'd take guys, and these guys were athletic guys, but when you're a football player, you're so much more physical and skilled. Take guys into the sideline, they would get mad and like, "You guys you're horrible."
Right.
Horrible. It's not like
Well, you might as well, instead of flag, just do what 7-on-7 does. Just one touch.
One touch.
But it's the same. I mean, there's just no tackling.
Content.
There's no way to first of all, there would never be any fumbles ever. I mean, you can't strip the ball if he's down by contact, down by one touch or whatever. They would have to fumble the ball on their own. And so it just changes the entire game. But yeah, I saw they were looking into the hip drop thing, and I get it. I mean, it's hard to tackle these guys. So yeah, sometimes you will grab them from behind, completely drop your weight to try to get them down, because if that's the only way you can. What are you going to go for a ride with them? I mean, you try to tackle Derrick Henry from behind and not drop your hips, you might as well just, go for a ride into the end zone with him. So
that was how Bo Jackson got hurt, if you remember. Remember Bo Jackson?
Hip was, and people will get hurt. I mean, we just had two injuries, with the Cowboys and the Chiefs and stuff like that. But I really don't know what else you're going to do. I mean, you can't hit quarterbacks low now. You can't hit them late now, which, all that's great. That's fine. Now you can't, I don't know. You can't. How are you going to bring a quarterback down? You can't hit him.
How does the underdog win when, let's say it trickles all the way down, right, to what, like college and high school, right? How does the underdog ever win if you can't out physical a team? You know what I'm saying? If it's just about how fast and athletic they are, okay, it's almost impossible for a group that isn't as fast. If you can't tackle, bring guys down, be physical. That's the advantage that an underdog could have. You could out physical somebody. You know what I mean? You could hit somebody and make a fumble happen. You won't have underdogs win state championships. It'd be very rare. It get rarer and rarer. And look at the game today. Like, how is TCU ever going to beat Georgia? No way. Not once in a while something like that could happen. They beat Michigan. Michigan wasn't really ready. They didn't. I don't think they took them to be as good as they ended up being, and they got behind, and things happen. But the less physical the game comes, the harder it is for an underdog to win against an opponent with more athletic ability. Just because you can't out physical them, you can't run the ball downhill all day, Wisconsin style. Well, would a Wisconsin ever have a chance against an Alabama? The less tackling it becomes an issue. Not that, but anyway.
Then it becomes about speed and athleticism, and again with two-hand touch, how do offensive linemen work? I mean, it changes the way they block. It changes the way the thought process is on everything. It's like, it's just the trenches don't mean anything to me if there's no tackling, and you can't be more physical than another team. So I don't know. It's something they talked about because of the two injuries. I think they may pass it because they pass everything good for the offense and bad for the defense. But anyways, I don't know. So yeah, it looks like that busting what the boys put out the Alabama thing, and it was a joke, but I don't know. Like I said, people are like, you're real smart because I said it can't be factual. Like, oh, you're quick as a whip. No, anything can happen. Like Marshall Manning will get an offer from somebody.
Oh, yeah.
At 11, I just didn't think it would be Nick Saban. So that was kind of, but if like, I don't know, Pitt offered him, It wouldn't shock me. I just think, Alabama probably wouldn't do that. So we haven't talked about the promo. It's underneath my thing, myfootballcamps.com/D1, starting to pick up.
There it is.
Obviously getting some. A couple of the latest guys that have signed up are really intriguing to me because, one of them has only played JV and he was late to football. The other one's got a lot of film and plays for a really good school and just, hasn't really been noticed because he's a bit of a tweener.
Right.
Everybody wants your linebackers, your outside linebackers to be 6'2", 6'3" with long wingspans. And if they're not, sometimes they just look at the size and they'll just be like, okay, I'm moving up. When they could be really good football players, obviously, who was it? He's an inside guy, but Zach Thomas for the Dolphins. You remember him?
Oh, Zach Thomas was unbelievable. Yes.
Hall of Famer.
5'11", 220.
I think he went was he a TCU guy? He was someplace in Texas.
Texas Tech.
Nobody wanted him. He was too small, too short. Ends up going off to the NFL as certainly not a high draft pick, and turns out to be one of the best linebackers ever. I mean, Junior Seau had more hype, of course, going to USC and all that, but another guy who wasn't long. Ray Lewis, not so long.
He wasn't. He was only 6'2", 215 when he came out.
Yeah. So sometimes you see these guys, and if they're not 6'3" and they don't have a 78-inch or 80-inch wingspan, you just don't even look at them. And that's what we're going to change about this.
And he can run too. A boot can run.
And then the new kid,
Hill,
the offensive tackles. Greenlee, 6'6", 270.
He's enormous.
Every checks every box. 5'1", 40. His vert's there. His broad's there. His shuttle's there. Every testing metric off the charts. Just hasn't played yet. Really. Has played JV, but hasn't played varsity football.
Was he new to football?
Yeah, he started late. Okay,
so I had a kid at Red Bank Regional. He's now at Purdue. He actually transferred out of my went to Red Bank Catholic. And his name was Vince Carpenter. He's at Purdue right now. Never played football. He was 6'7", maybe came in. He was like 240 at the time as a freshman. Had never played. But sophomore year was our starting guy. Was a stud. Started to get offers. He upgraded, I guess, to Red Bank Catholic. Ended up with like 10 offers. And he had never played before his freshman year. Actually was a musician. Okay. Fantastic. Still is fantastic musician, but he had the wingspan. That's what Hill Greenlee reminds me of. He had the wingspan. He played the left tackle position. Vince Carpenter's name. He's at Purdue. And he played a little bit this year. And this is only his fourth year playing football. He started playing as a freshman, played only freshman ball his freshman year. Sophomore year was playing varsity and was raw. But it was similar. I think by the time he graduated high school, I think he was like 305 at 6'6", 6'7", or whatever. And that's what Greenlee is, right? Like 6'7" or 6'8".
Yeah, 6'7", 280.
Yeah.
Wingspan off the charts, everything testing off the charts. Just doesn't have a lot of experience. And will get that. And plays at a 6A school. I mean, it's Matthew Stafford's old school. And to me, when I talk to the dad about this through email, I said, they're going to find him.
Yeah. We're going to accelerate that.
I said, we can make that a lot faster, but they're going to find him. So it wasn't even a sales pitch. It wasn't like, no one's going to find this kid. He needs us. But this just accelerates it as quickly as humanly possible. So now he's going to get spring visits, which he probably wouldn't have gotten before, even though he was on radar. It just accelerates. So what they did is they purchased the 6-month promo for acceleration, like Jaffe and some others. And I think that's a smart move because you can sit back and assume they're going to be watched and they're going to find them. Like I assume this kid's going to be found. Or you can make sure it's going to happen, and you make sure it's going to happen this month rather than wait till June.
I think your first video that you already did, and I still have to do mine, I think it had over 5,000 views already. I remember looking at it, I was like shocked at how many views it already had. You might,
he's got some big schools already looking at him.
Yeah.
He just does. But again, what this does is it puts him in front of everybody, like in your face, everybody. And also I retweeted his own tweet on junior highlights and stuff like that, and retweeted some other things about him. But that's the thing. Yeah. Listen, this is almost like I'm super happy about this kid being in the program because we get to accelerate this process and we get to see the results quicker, because everybody who's 6'8", 270 and has athleticism like this, schools are going to want to see. They're going to invite to camps. They're going to invite to junior days. And for me, it's like we could be looking at a kid that is a Power 5 football player. I mean, I'm not saying Texas, but I'm saying Texas Tech, TCU, that could happen. And listen, it's almost like, hey, great for him, great for us. This is one of those ones where it comes across and I'm like, okay, this is great. It's a smart decision, but it's going to look really good in the end. There's no way this is not going to work out well for everybody involved.
Absolutely. You know what reminds me of? I don't know if you've ever seen this stat, but there's a stat with basketball players that are 7 feet. Okay. If you're 7 foot tall, your chances, just being 7 foot tall, your chances of being a pro basketball player is 17%. That's unbelievable. Just being born 7 feet or taller, your chances of being a pro basketball player is 17%. Here's what's so interesting about it. The percentage of being a pro basketball player, if you're between 6'6" and 6'8", which is obviously incredibly tall, is 0.07%. So think about it. You translate the football, right? Between 6'6" and 6'8" as a lineman is like and you have, not if you're a beanpole, obviously, but if you're like this kid where you have some size to you, your chances of being a Division I football player are astronomically high. Right. And it is. And it's the same thing with a 7 foot. I was just at, I went to Monmouth University, played Drexel, Division, the smaller conference, Division I, like CAA, 15 minutes from my house. We're watching the game, and Drexel had a 6'11" center. He was from England. He was raw, like 50% of his foul shots raw kind of thing. He was so physically big and could jump out like Duncan all over the place. And you could see, like, you just looking at him and like, this guy, 4 years, projected forward, playing just because of that size. He was, and obviously in Division I basketball, there are other guys all over the place that are 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". He was just so much bigger. You're like, this guy could be a pro. My son asked me, he's like, do you think that guy could be a pro? I'm like, if he improves, just because he's 6'11" and can dribble and stuff, he could be a pro. He's going to have a chance. And it's. I think that's the thing with a lineman. To me, if I'm a 6'6" lineman, 6'5" lineman, 6'8" lineman, and I have size to me, like what would have been the old tight ends back in the day, but now are left tackles. This promo will work wonders. Will work wonders in accelerating things, because they have to decipher through so many linemen, and they probably get inundated with and there's plenty of these guys at Division I, the 6'3" lineman that's 280, 290, who's really good, but they're trying to figure out whether he can project as a good enough, whether he's a guard, can he play tackle at the Division I level? Whereas a 6'7" guy, 6'6" guy, he can only get bigger, He can only get bigger. And if he runs a 5'1" 40 like this guy does already, you already know he's athletic enough. It's now, can he get the skills down? Is he physical enough? I always hear the question like, will he continue to gain the physicality and toughness necessary to be a great offensive lineman? Because you have to have a little bit of nastiness to you. Although left tackle now is interesting because basically, the pros are basically kick sliding the whole game, right? But even in college, because of the spread offenses, those guys are kick sliding 80% of the game. How much run blocking are they doing? The left tackle.
Yeah, and everything's shotgun, and there's the splits are wide, and it's just you have to be much more athletic. You have to have that length, and you watch these replays, of these right and left tackles trying to handle when Chris Jones lines up on the outside for the Chiefs, or you look at an elite pass rusher like Micah Parsons lining up, stand up. They can get out of they can kick, they can get out of their stance quick, and they still can't do anything, because maybe they're not long enough, or these guys are just so fast. So anybody who's got that wingspan, I think he's got an 82-inch wingspan, 6'7", and if you're athletic and you can get out there, at least just to slow somebody down with the wingspan, that's what everybody wants. So yeah, there are certain guys that, and these are kind of different. So we've got, the linebacker who's doesn't fit in the box. He's probably 6 foot, as opposed to 6'2" or 3. And he's not, he's still growing. Obviously he's a 2024, but he's not 225. It's going to take more of the promo for him to get looks, in a longer time, when you get a 6'8", 270 guy who hasn't played. This kid's played the linebacker's played a ton of varsity football. You got a lot of film, but the 6'8", 270 kid with JV film is going to get a lot more initial interest, because they're just harder to find, and he fits every box when it comes to size and stuff like that. So they'll both end up being successful to whatever level. I mean, I think, we could be looking at an FCS versus a group of 5 here, based on the fact that 167, 280, of course, he's going to have the advantage. But they're both going to be successful. Yeah, I mean, you put a kid out there who's this size, everybody's going to look. Doesn't matter if he can chew gum and walk at the same time. They're going to look, because they just want big guys. So, yeah, his is going to blow up pretty quick. But I like the fact that we got one that needs the promotion and will need to go through the grind, and the other one who's accelerating. Like Jaffe doesn't need the program, but it accelerated the program for him greatly, and that was the investment. Parker Meese doesn't need the program. He already had Power 5 offers. His was to accelerate, but also to raise his national brand.
Correct.
And so there's many different ways to do this. I mean, honestly, eventually we're going to get a kid who's ranked 4 stars on all these sites who wants to be a 5. And we'll use the promo program to get to that point, because it can do that for you. But it can also take you from nothing to FCS. So there's really so many different avenues you can take here, as long as you're willing to invest.
Yeah, I remember we got Parker Meese. That was actually his goal was to be the number 1 linebacker in the country. His goal, his ultimate goal. So it was all around being possibly the number 1 ranked linebacker in the country.
Yep.
But I there's a place for that with this because you could be a really offer guy, but obviously when the different recruiting services are ranking players, the more they get to someone that gets in front of them, they can evaluate. Obviously, there's going to be an advantage to that, especially when they're comparing 2 apples together. 2 guys that are very similar, and you're like, well, I've seen his stuff a few more times than his stuff. I feel a little more comfortable ranking him ahead of this guy. It's not like their abilities are going to be that far apart.
Well, and also, to be honest with you, I mean, there's a very lazy evaluation process that occurs, that if we can take a Parker Meese from getting, TCU, Texas Tech, Missouri offers to getting Oklahoma and Texas, his ranking is going to go up.
Right.
Because we all know rankings are based on offers. There's the great example is this. There's a 3-star kid from Michigan who's a solid player. He's got maybe 8 Power 5 offers, but he doesn't have Michigan yet. He doesn't have Notre Dame yet. He doesn't have Ohio State yet. When he gets those 3 offers, or 2 out of the 3, he's going to be a 4-star. It's not going to be a different film evaluation. It's not going to go back and dig into the film. It's going to be like, oh, Ohio State and Michigan and Notre Dame offered this kid. Boom. And that's how it works. Like there's a running back in the 2023 class who was committed to UCLA on one of these big sites. He was a 3-star kid, a California kid, 3-star going to UCLA. He flipped his commitment to Georgia, and guess what? He became a 4-star and one of the top 5 running backs in the country, magically, just like that. Weird, right? So what I'm saying is, if you got a ton of offers and you want to reach that higher level of offer, that is what we can do, and we can get to that point, and then the ranking is going to come. These guys are not going to look at our guys and say, oh, we got to evaluate him, and you'll get a profile. I mean, some of these guys never had profiles anywhere, and then they get a profile from this promo. But the rankings are based on offers. The offers are based on your promotion. So if you're a kid who has no offers, want to be FCS, it's perfect for you. If you're a kid with a bunch of group of 5 offers who wants to accelerate the process or get bigger offers, then this is for you as well. And then the rankings will come. So it's kind of chicken versus egg. But to me, it's offers, then ranking. Because I watched signing day. I watched the early signing period. I've been part of it for 24 years. But I watched it, and being in it, I had a different approach to it. I didn't want, there was a kid again. I do some Illinois writing, so I'm kind of entrenched there. There was a kid in the state of Illinois, Brett Bielema hid until signing day on Wednesday last week. And then they took his commitment. He had no profiles. None of the 3 sites had him as a profile player. He was a preferred walk-on recruit who's going to play baseball. He commits that day, busy day. All of a sudden, 24/7's got him as a 3-star instantly. Now, Bielema even joked about it in his press conference. He's like, well, I guess I did a pretty good job hiding this kid because he's a 3-star, wink, wink. And he laughed. That's how it works. So, the people get caught up in the rankings and all that stuff. Nowadays, more than ever. Back in the day when we were building this, we had to really, 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 really dig in. And we couldn't, really offer based on who's offered you and this, that, and the other. Now I kind of see it's like, oh, wow, this kid flipped from a small school to a big school. All of a sudden he got a new star. Or this kid, made his decision between a small school and a big school. He chose the bigger school. I know that site has a lot of subscribers. He's going to get a pretty good ranking, as opposed to like UCLA is a great example. UCLA does not have a good fan base. They don't have a big website anywhere. They don't have any fans that are going to bitch and complain. Georgia has 5 amazingly huge fan base sites. All of them are going to bitch and complain. Kid flips, higher ranking, feeds the monster, feeds subscriptions, feeds, stops the fanboys from complaining. And UCLA gets screwed because they don't have a loud enough fan base to really bitch. That's kind of how it works.
That's so interesting. I love that insight. It's definitely something that people have no idea about until you talk. Like, you probably couldn't talk about this stuff when you were on the inside, right? Like they would be like, don't say, how it is. But
and I really tried to stop it from being how it was.
Right.
We really stuck to, I told you that 2-star rankings went away.
Right.
We still have them. I say they still have them at Rivals. You won't find them on 247 or on 3. You just won't find 2-stars, but they still have them. The Illinois kid, he's a 2-star on Rivals. And that's kind of what we tried to do. Now, of course, your buddy Barry kind of ruined all that for a while, but I was still trying to keep it tempered even through his, 3-star parade to make it as realistic as possible. But guess what? It gave us a complete competitive disadvantage. We were losing subscribers. We were losing publishers because they're like, I'm going to go to the site where my kids are all 3-stars.
Right.
I don't want to explain to my fan base why this kid's a 2 and he's a 3 elsewhere. So what it became is like an arms race where other sites were ranking kids higher and higher and higher and having more 5-stars and more 4-stars. I remember when we had the Rivals 250, legit, we had 350 kids or so that were 4-stars. We had the Rivals 250, and then we had the kids outside the 250 that were 4 stars. Another company ended up, with like 600 4 stars, almost double. And we couldn't compete with that. We're like, okay, we have to change the way we rank entirely, or we have to just acquiesce and start ranking kids higher. And I fought that. And I have no idea what's going on now.
Yeah.
As far as like the internal workings of all that stuff. I know that everybody will say we rank kids based on not what schools they pick and all this other stuff. But I just know the fight that we constantly always had, to try to be a business that was competitive versus actually have credibility in rankings. And it was a hard struggle balance.
Well, I think you know what coincided with all of it. You know how online, like, I don't know, you could review a book or you review a restaurant or anything, right? If you had anything less than 3 stars, right, in these reviews online, as that became a big thing, reviews, 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews, if you had below 3 stars at a restaurant you were going to go out of business. So as your rankings were starting to be, it was already ahead of the curve, but as soon as your rankings started to become more and more popular, it coincided that 3-star, 4-star movement coincided with all these things with, like, job interviews and all these. And if you had below a 3-star, it was a bad thing. So everyone's psyche becomes anything below a 3-star is unsatisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
That's the psyche of people now. So it's really like, and it's screwed up the football system because you'd like to be able to say, hey, you're an FCS player. I'll give you a star, right? A star for an FCS player, which is what it should be. Like, your FCS players, a star, maybe some are 2 stars. Your smaller D1 schools are higher 2 stars, right? But because the review system now, anything below 3, people like freak out if your restaurant is below a 3. No one wants that. They don't want it. An FCS player would rather not be on there than to get a 1 star.
I know, and that's a problem. And I thought about it when I went independent. I thought about, like, I could really try to screw this industry, and I still could if I want to. I'm not big enough now. We're still growing this. April is going to be our first full year in business, and we're still building traffic and building all this credibility and stuff like that. But if I ever got big enough, I could really screw the industry, because I could come up with 100 5 stars, and the highest elsewhere is 32 to 35, so I could make, 65 more 5 stars. And that would be more inclusive to, Tennessee would probably have 4 or 5 stars in their class as opposed to 1 everywhere else. And where are those fans going to gravitate to? Me, because they're going to be like, and it's all complete garbage, like if I did that, I would sort of push away any sort of like credibility to feed to the masses.
I don't think people care.
No, they don't. They just don't, because that's what I noticed was we would have a kid ranked, let's use a really rabid fan base like Tennessee. We would have a kid ranked as a 4-star. And so other places would have him as a 5-star. And if those other places had him as a 5-star, everybody on our site would bitch and complain that we had him as a 4. There was no film evaluation. He's going to Tennessee. He should be a 5 because they say he's a 5. You guys suck. I'm going to cancel my subscription with you because you suck, and they have him as a 5. There's no thought process as to whether he belongs as a 5 versus a 4. It's just the fan base wants the 5, and they're going to gravitate towards whoever gives them that 5. So honestly, if I were like On 3 or 24/7 or Rivals, and I wanted a business competitive advantage, I'd be the first one to do 100 5 stars and watch my subscriptions go up and up and up, because all those fans on 3 or 24/7 that, have the 55th player in the country committed to Tennessee, he's a 4-star. All of a sudden he's a 5-star on Rivals. The worry would be you'd be a laughing stock, because why would you have 105 stars? I wouldn't worry about it at all. all those Tennessee fans would gravitate towards rivals. They just would, because they don't care about credibility. They care about ranking.
It's interesting. I saw this, by the way. This question came through, which is interesting. How young should NIL go? You see that?
Yeah.
Oh,
So the Rashada numbers came out today, and I'm not sure if they're accurate or not. But I don't know if you saw that article, the Athletic. They dug into his contract, and I'm not sure where they got the contract or if it's accurate or whatever. But it was showing a lot of numbers. The $13 million thing. So what I think they got was the demands, because I did hear that Rashada, the quarterback who had committed to, Miami and then flipped to Florida and then made $13 million demands. It was like a $500,000 upfront payment, $250,000 a month as a freshman, $291,666 as a sophomore, $375 as a junior, and then rounded out to $195 if he stayed as a senior. And then his requirements. So the number adds up apparently to $13.85 million if he stayed all 4 years. And these were the demands. NIL is legal in some high school states, and others it's not passed yet, but they're going to pass it in every state. I don't know. It really depends on who's willing to pay this garbage, because Rashada turned down whatever deal Florida had in place.
right.
Okay? Now he's going to Arizona State. Now I know every coach.
That's where he signed.
He signed with Arizona State. His dad played at Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham's the coach at Arizona State, was recruiting at Oregon. They have a really good relationship. I know every coach. I know every NIL situation. I know he's not making diddly compared to this at Arizona State. So he walked away from, let's say it was a $5 million deal from Florida by asking for 13.85. And now he's getting maybe nothing to $500,000 max at Arizona State. So he screwed himself, but this is what he needed to do, because now he's got red flags with the NFL. He's a selfish kid. He's greedy, He's the NIL kid. He needed to go to some place where NIL was no longer a factor, and then he can earn NIL if he becomes successful there. But he screwed himself. But it really comes down to what somebody's going to pay you for. So if you have an 11th grade or 11-year-old Marshall Manning that somebody wants to sponsor, take it. I just think that some of these demands, I'm not paying anything close to this for any quarterback. Arch Manning, Malachi, Nelson, Dante Moore, Trevor Lawrence. I'm not paying any of this garbage for any of these kids who haven't thrown a pass yet and screwing up my locker room. And so it can go as young as you want, as young as you can get the money, but it depends on who's willing to pay you.
Saban wasn't there a story where two defensive backs, I don't know if they're a 4-star or 5-star, but two defensive backs said to Saban, we want X amount of dollars. And he said, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, he said, this is not the place for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's culture versus NIL. So if you want to build your program based on culture, you're going to be successful on the football field, or have a better chance of being successful on the football field. Or if you want to build it based on NIL, which kind of like Miami has been accused of, Texas A&M has been accused of, you could have a disaster on your hands there, because you got kids with their hands out who want money. Then you got kids coming in and go, I hear this is the place for money. So if I go to Miami, man, I want this, that, and the other. And Rashada, ironically, committed to Miami and then left. Kermani McLean committed to Miami, then left. They're got their hands out. You've got a billionaire benefactor, I've heard. Give me money. And so you have to temper whether you're going to give it to him or not. Nick Saban's not going to NIL guys out of high school. He may lose a recruit or two here and there, but culturally, he's going to be fine. George is the same way. Culture is more important than NIL. So
this was funny too. I know you got on, but I thought this was funny. So this is actually true. So Derek, who helps us, works with me, and he helps us with all our stuff. when he was talking to kids about the Winterfest event that we're running. There's a 4-star that said to us, I'll come to your event to bring eyes to your event. I'm not participating. And we were trying to figure out, does that mean he want us to give him money to come to the event or something? But we were talking about it. We're trying to figure it out, what he was implying. Obviously, we didn't even pursue. But that's kind of where it is. And New Jersey's a state, by the way, where you can in high school get stuff. So, but we both chuckled at it. I have to say, I appreciate his
Candor.
his gumption and his desire to, or cojones, to ask for it too, but or to bring it up. But I just think it's so interesting that in high school, kids legitimately think that that's, their culture, that's there's nothing out of line in that. You know what I mean? I think it's interesting. I wonder how it's all going to go. Like, if I could project 5 years in the future, I just project the disaster with all this. But
yeah, it's getting worse. I mean, at the beginning, they threw out a lot of money at the DJ Owangaleles and Spencer Rattlers and of the world, who ended up not being successful at the schools they were at. Now they're throwing out more money to high school kids than they ever had before. It's going to get worse in that regard. But they did it to Quinn Ewers. He committed to Ohio State. He ended up transferring. A lot of people lost money at Ohio State investing in him. You're going to see it continue to get worse and worse and crazier until the billionaires and millionaires just say, you know what? No, I'm no longer doing this. I'm not going to waste my money on these kids, until they become successful. So CJ Stroud, there was an NIL presentation to him to stay at Ohio State versus go to the NFL, but he deserved it because he was successful on the field. He was a 2-time Heisman finalist. That's where your NIL comes in. But if you want to NIL high school kids, good luck. You're going to waste your money. You're going to lose your money. And you're also going to build a program that is not cohesive, in the locker room, the cultural aspect. Saban's no dummy, but 5 years from now, Saban will be gone.
Yep.
And you're right. I mean, so where do we go from here in college football? Is it a mercenary thing now where you can transfer from school to school and request the highest bidding? I always said Drake May, the quarterback for North Carolina, who, he should just jump in the portal when it was open. Because why not? Now, he's a legacy at UNC. His family's very tight to UNC. He would never do that. But if he were that type of kid, he could jump in and just see what bids are out there for him. And it could be millions and millions of dollars. Caleb Williams could do it. He could jump in after the spring at USC and just command millions of dollars from the highest bidder. There's nothing stopping these kids from doing that. And we're going to see that. We're going to see a lot of kids jump in the portal, not because they lost their coach, not because they're not playing, but because they're big names who want to see if they can command big dollars.
It's incredible. I mean, you just think about like where it's going to go. I think if I had $5 million, I was interested in my UConn, for example. If I had $5 million, I was going to give away to UConn. If I had that, I would give it so my name would be on a building.
That lasts forever.
That lasts forever.
Nah,
my kid could go to that school. I know I give that money. If I give it to some player, and whether he pans out or not, there's that money just going to that player.
Yeah,
I'm just donating money to a player. I don't know. It's there are players that are worth it. That's why they have the collective. So none of these guys are all out. Instead of me being out $5 million, I'm out 500,000, and so is these other 10 guys. These 10 guys will give $500K, but
I know
it's very.
But still, I mean, money's money. I mean, do you really want to waste it? Even $500K. I mean, I know. Yeah. Let's say you got $100 billion, $500K is nothing. But do you really want to just throw it away? And that's the decision that has to be made here. And Florida said no. We don't want $13.85 million quarterback. The fans are upset because they want him, because they think he's good, because he has these star rankings based on offers out of high school. So Billy Napier takes the hit here, and the Gator Collective takes the hit here because they said no to this kid because he's way out of his league as far as pricing is concerned. He's going to ruin our locker room. But, the fans want what they want. And so this is the balance. But we definitely got to go.
Yeah.
But, yeah, NIL is crazy. I'm glad, too. We're dealing with the promo. We're not dealing with NIL babies. We're not dealing with any of this garbage. It's like you're investing your money into us, and we're going to work hard for you to get exposure. And that's it. If you become, an NIL, benefactor down the road, great. Have fun. But that's not what this is about. This is about pure football ability and trying to earn a scholarship to get your education paid for, which is the old school way of doing life. And then, hopefully matriculate on to your professional goals.
That's exactly right. MyFootballCamps.com. I'm pointing at it because I'm Mike's side.
Yeah.
/D1. /D1. Get on there. The players that are coming through are fantastic. I've been really been pleasantly surprised with the players we've had, and it's working. So that's the most important thing. It's working. And that's what we want to make sure that you got the opportunity to go. MyFootballCamps.com/D1. Till next week, we'll be back talking more Super Bowl prediction before you go.
I got the Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to win by 6-7 points. So my bet is Eagles because they're laying, I think, 1.5. I'm going to wait until the actual game to bet. And I like the under. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than 50 points.
I'm going to go with KC.
Well, if they get all the freaking calls they got against Cincinnati, then they're going to win. That was a joke.
Yeah, I think, and they may.
They may.
You don't know who they want to win yet. You don't know. You won't know until the game.
Crazy.
All right. Until next time, we'll see you guys. MyFootballCamps.com. Make sure you check it out. We're here to help you. You can DM us too. Obviously, the easiest way is MyFootballCamps.com/D1. And, but obviously mine's at Coach Schuman. Mike is at M Farrell Sports, right?
Yep.
We will see you soon. I'm looking for our outro. Here it is. And we're out.